Hi there, Jessen
Hey,
James. Thank you for being in conversation with me, Hyacinth
pleasure.
Fraser from Property in Action. Just say something about who you are and what you do.
Great. Who am I? That's a very deep question.
The
Well,
short version.
short version, like you said, my name's Jessen James. I'm a serial entrepreneur, investor, and multi-award winning international speaker. And yeah, my journey's really been about. If I had to nail it down, it's always been about serving other people and adding value to people's lives. I'm not sure if you know this, Isis, but I've definitely shared it before. I used to be a nurse. I used to be a mental health nurse. That's my background. And clearly, being born and bred in the UK, I didn't get into nursing for the money. Because nurses, unfortunately, don't get paid enough, in my opinion, here in this country, especially. But I've always had a desire to serve people, to serve human beings, to solve problems for people. And I suppose that's kind of how my love for entrepreneurship developed. You know, as a child growing up, I was always fascinated by entrepreneurship. I was that kid in the playground when I was 15 years old. If you ask me for something, I'll go and find it and sell it to you. You know? So
Okay.
obviously legal stuff, of
All
course. Yeah.
legal.
Get that disclaimer in nice and early. But for me, it's always been about serving people. But nobody really teaches you entrepreneurship when you're growing up. It's all about get a good education and then go off and work for somebody else. But what happens if you want to be the person that other people work for? That's not really positioned in the school system, in my opinion. So to cut a long story short, when I graduated from university as a nurse, a mental health nurse, I thought it's now or never. I'm going to go and give this entrepreneurship thing a try. And I did. I went and launched my first company at 24 years old, and I made minus £65,000 in 3 months.
Oh, wow. What was that company?
So, well, check this out. Here's how you'll know it wasn't the greatest idea. Picture this. I was a newly qualified mental health nurse who was the proud owner of a luxury bathroom store.
Okay.
Makes no blooming sense whatsoever. Because, and that's lesson number one to anyone watching this video right now in business. Always get into a business that you have experience in, or you've got credibility in. And if you don't, leverage somebody else's skills to get into that business. I had no experience in the bathroom trade. I had no experience in that. And I got wiped out very, very, very soon. But it taught me some valuable life lessons. But like most people, when they get a knock, when they get hurt, they go back to their comfort zone. And I went back and basically did what my parents have always told me to do, which is get a good education and get a job, which is also, as you know, short for just over broke.
That's right.
And I did. I went back into, obviously went into nursing, which is what I qualified to do. I worked for the private sector. And in the private sector, it's a lot different to the NHS. The NHS is more about, longer term career plans, whereas the private sector is it's a business at the end of the day. So having that entrepreneur inside me, I was what I refer to in that time as an intrapreneur. I was being entrepreneurial within somebody else's business. So I was very, very proactive, and I climbed the ranks very, very quickly. I became a ward manager at the age of 27. And then I was given sales targets. And I don't know if you've ever met a nurse with sales targets, but congratulations. If you haven't, you've met your first one. So my goal was to actually go out and sell beds to the NHS. I used to sell the beds to the NHS. Bums on beds is what they called it. And I did really well. I made my employer £6.5 million in just 2 years, which was fantastic. And then sadly, in 2009, which is the sort of tail end of the recession, the credit crunch, whatever you want to call it, my employer called me into her office and said that they no longer need me.
After you made them £6.3 million.
£6.5 million. That's right, correct. So you can imagine that was quite a blow for me. And I was also taken aback, and I was confused now, because I was like, well, business didn't work, and now the dream that I was fed about getting a good job didn't work either. And I was confused. And maybe people watching this right now can relate to feeling at a crossroads in their life at some point, or feeling confused. And I did, but I did realize something very, very quick. And I'd like everyone watching this to take this on board, because it's a very, very useful point. I realized very, very quick that nothing in life is secure unless you secure it yourself. Your job isn't secure. Your business isn't even secure unless you take action and actually secure it yourself. So I thought, well, if I'm going to be responsible for my own future and take a risk, I may as well take a risk on myself. So I decided to never work for anybody ever again. Now, it sounds lovely, But I'm sure you can relate, Hyacinth, if you've ever made a very brave decision before, and then 2 minutes later, this voice goes off in your head and goes,
Oh
"What are
my
you
goodness,
doing?
what have I done?"
What have you done? What are you doing?" And that's what happened. But for 5 months, I was literally unemployed, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had to fight with my internal battles of telling me to go and work for somebody else. So, for example, my position that I was in, I could have easily walked into another job for one of my employer's competitors. So my employer was actually second to the Priory Hospital Group. You've probably heard of the Priory Hospitals before. And the Priory Group would have taken me just like that. But again, I'm going back to comfort zone stuff. So I didn't. Then I had my parents telling me, get a job, go back into employment. And quite frankly, I was the family embarrassment, if I'm very honest, because I wasn't working. And I decided not to. I said, I've got to give this a go. I've got to find my own feet. And I did. I decided to go back into business, but this time into a business that I understood, which was the care industry, because clearly from my background, that's where my business began. And I suppose that was also the beginning of my property journey, which I'll come on to in a moment. Sure. But essentially what I... Yeah, sorry, do you want to ask me something?
I wanted to just ask, what was it? What were you telling yourself? What tipped the balance between you seeking another job with the Priory or whoever and going and doing your own thing? What was it that you were telling yourself?
Just realizing that I was going to be putting a plaster over a bandage. It would eventually have fallen off. I was just I was acting from a place of scarcity. And I get it. Look, when you're watching this right now, maybe you're struggling with money. Maybe you're struggling to make ends meet. Maybe you're trying to find your way. And it's very tempting to go back to security. But everybody watching this video, I'd imagine, are freedom seekers. They're people who want to be free. But if you think about it, that value of freedom, unfortunately, for most people who don't take action on that, their value for security is much stronger than their value for freedom. So they go to play safe. So for me, I suppose I made it my value for freedom stronger than my value for security. And that's what that's what made me go and do that. So, I got into the care industry. We launched supported living services in the community for adults with mental illness and learning difficulties, which was was great, but it was very, very tough. Don't know if anyone can relate to this, but trying to work with local authorities and councils and stuff there, especially in property alone, but in the care industry, the council are very backwards with coming forwards. They're very hard to work with, and it wasn't easy, but got there in the end. Eventually managed to launch the company. I managed to double the size of the company in the first 12 months and quadruple the income in the first 2 years, which was a fantastic achievement. However, I was working all the time in that business, like 80 hours a week, burnt out, stressed out. Good business, had money in the bank, but it was very, very stressful. And I realized that the business was entirely reliant on me.
So working in the business rather than working on the business, as it were.
Absolutely. And it was a very dangerous place to be, because the question I have to ask everybody watching right now is, if you're hospitalized next week for the next 6 months and you can't work, what happens to your income? What happens to your home, your car, your food on the table, your children? And it's a big risk you play when you're running a business. So I had to revisit my model, and eventually managed to figure out how to systemize that business by putting processes in place, hiring better people, making my business more profitable by niching down in my sector. And to cut a long story short, I was able to take that business from me working 80 hours a week right down to just 1 hour a week, where I would just meet, usually on conference calls with my management team and other directors, and they ran that business essentially for me. That business, Hyacinth, made me financially free at the age of 31, and then a millionaire 18 months later.
Fantastic.
Not bad for a nurse who got fired.
Wow. So you got other people working for you, and you systematized that business so you didn't have to work in it.
Correct. Which was fantastic, because I was in a very, very blessed position. And now from a property angle, just to show you what I was doing, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I was running a rent-to-rent model. So what I would do, I owned one of the properties that we operated from personally, but the rest of them, to preserve my capital, as it were, I was pretty much approaching landlords, negotiating guaranteed rents for X amount of time, 3 to 5 year leases, and then I'd have a agreement in their lease to sublet the rooms. So I was letting the rooms much like a HMO style to
Sure.
clients from social services. So I'd get rent money, and then social services would also pay me to pay my staff in effect to look after these people. So I was getting two incomes from that particular property. So, but just as a standalone HMO, obviously it was making a profit, but that wasn't my main focus because, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But that was my first real taste of actually income from property, because I know this channel was really about property income.
Yeah.
And then I went on to invest in other businesses. So, I got good at buying and selling businesses. I've owned hair salons, I've owned online stores, I've owned training companies. And then obviously what I do now is I've gone from, I suppose from where did my mentorship journey or public speaking journey begin was when people started asking for my advice, and just like you, Hyacinth, obviously on your journey, people are asking you for advice, right? And, I think there comes a point where you need to start charging for your advice, because otherwise people don't actually value it. They just, they don't take it seriously. So I started coaching business owners on how to launch, start, grow and scale profitable companies that don't require them to be there all the time. And then I decided that I didn't want to just coach one-to-one anymore. So I retrained as a professional speaker it was 2015 that I retrained as a professional speaker. And then within the first 3 years, I went on to win 6 public speaking awards, including Investment Speaker Worldwide and UK Speaker of the Year. And it's a blessing because I now get to share my message and inspire people all across the globe. Really, I've spoken in Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai, Thailand, Mauritius, Slovenia, Bulgaria, and obviously here in the UK. You may know this. I also shared the stage with Gary Vaynerchuk last year in September, which was a big goal for me anyway, because I'm now in there with one of the biggest promoters in the world. In fact, Tony Robbins, promoter, Success Resources.
Yes.
And it's fantastic. So I'm blessed because I'm getting to live my passion, as it were, but also, living life on my terms, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So do you know, if you were to say maybe 3 tips to support people to live the life of their dreams, what would be the 3 things you would really suggest people do?
Yeah. So for number 1, clarity. Number 1 is really sit down with no distractions and write down what you want. What is it that you want? Because most people just say it willy-nilly. Like, for example, I want to be financially free, or I want to make 10 grand a month, or whatever. They just say these things without any real understanding of, like, what is it that they want really? So sit down and map out what is your ideal life going to look like. What does it look like? So, and I'm not just talking about 5-10 years from now, because most people talk about where are you in 5 years. I'm not interested in the next 5 years. I'm interested in the next 12 months, because if you take care of the next 12 months, the next 5 years take care of themselves. That's the way I look at it. So where do you want to be in the next 12 months? Be very, very clear on that. And then, yes, obviously have the bigger picture. What's the bigger overall thing? Like, do you want to be working 2 or 3 days a week? Do you want to not work at all? Like, for example, I have a lot of clients come to me and say, look, Jessen, I don't like the idea of not working. I'd like to work just 2 days a week in my business and then have the rest of the week off to spend with my family and friends. I'm like, great, that's what you want. Let's work on that. And then I have people who say, look, I don't want anything to do with my business anymore. I just want to be traveling and enjoying life. And I've helped people do that as well. So it's about, number 1, being absolutely clear on what it is you want. So write that down. Step number 2, why? Why do you want that?
What's your big why?
What's your big why? Well, not many people spend time fleshing out the reason why they want that particular thing. So, and when I say why, like, dig deep, like you just said, your big why. What difference would it make in your life? What mission does it serve? What does it fulfill for you? And then that thing will help drive you moving forwards. And then step number 3 is map out your action plan. So what steps do you need to take to achieve this goal? And a lot of people confuse actions with goals. There's a difference between an action and a goal. So for example, if your goal is to get to, I don't know, 15% body fat in the gym, that's your goal. And then you say, one of my goals is to start drinking more water every day. That's not a goal. That's an action to achieve that goal. Yeah. So be very clear that when you're writing down your action steps, that they are actions and not goals, and you make sure that they're very, very clear. So, and just baby steps. Don't wait to be perfect. Just progress is better than nothing. So those are my 3 top tips.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. So I know you've got a big property project that you're
Yes.
engaged with at the moment. Can you tell us
Yes.
something about how that came about, how it's going, what your vision is for it for the
Yeah,
future?
yeah. So yeah. Interestingly enough, I've always decided that it's better for us to play big rather than small. And I believe that you should aim as high as you can. And during my property journeys, as it were, I've been working very, very closely with Liam Ryan, who you know obviously, and people watching this will probably have heard of. He's a good close friend of mine, and obviously working with him on my property, and I've been working with him and helping with his public speaking and his training company. So we've got a good friendship. So when we first kind of started working on my property business, we went and bagged a deal with a landlord on his portfolio of properties, which we're still working on at the moment, with 20 HMOs, which we're trying to get over the line, and they're coming in dribs and drabs because he's an old school landlord, which is cool. But whilst that's going on in the background, I said to Liam, I want to get into a land development deal. Never done this before, had no idea. So I went out and did what I'm very, very good at, and that's building relationships and networking. So I built a relationship with a local agent here in Kent, one of the biggest commercial agents. And then as luck would have it, someone that I knew from when I was running my salon business actually started working there. And so I was like, great, this is the universe providing for me.
Wow.
So this was good. So again, built on that relationship, got really, really pally with him and his boss. And eventually they sent a big deal here in Ashford in Kent over to me. It wasn't on the market yet. They said, Jess, what do you think of this? And here's what I did, which I'm going to encourage everybody on this video to do. And I just said yes. I just said yes. So I'm doing it. Yeah, I just said I'm going for it. I had no idea how I was going to make this deal happen. I had no idea where I was going to get the funds from. I've never had any experience in such a large project. And just to show you how big the project was, it's a big plot of land in Ashford in Kent, right next to the international station, and it's already got planning permission for 93 apartments.
Wow, that's huge.
So, yeah, it's massive. We're acquiring it for 4.2 million. We've already exchanged on that. We're hoping to complete in a few weeks. So 4.2 million acquisition, 7 million approximately build cost, and a GDV of just under 18 million pounds. So it's quite a big deal. So
GDV, gross development value.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So we got, so how did that deal come about? Like I said, building relationships and nurturing people. And then here's a tip for everybody. Act as if you've already done this before.
Wow.
Now, I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm talking about when you carry yourself as if you already are a fully fledged property investor, or you've already done these deals before, or you know what you're talking about. When you act as if, you carry yourself with a completely different energy. So I was invited into a board meeting with the vendors for them to quote unquote interview me for suitability for selling this deal. And I sat in there in a boardroom with all of these people who've obviously clearly got experience in this stuff. I didn't. And I went in and I basically turned around and told them that, here's my story. Here's how I can add value to that site. Here's my experience. I started leveraging obviously Liam's experience as well, and Assets for Life, and obviously some of my other business partners who were involved in the deal with me, who've done these kind of deals before themselves. And eventually I was acting as if I had already done this before, and that confidence, that certainty that I had, which is essentially what made them give me the deal in the end.
So how did you garner that certainty in yourself? What were some of the things you were saying to yourself? How were you behaving in that context?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it comes with self-belief. I just start asking myself some simple questions. If I get this deal, do I have the tools, the resources, the mentorship, the people around me to get this done? The answer was big fat yes. So it didn't matter about me. It had nothing to do with my skill set, my ability to make it happen. Nothing. I just asked myself, do I have access to the resources? And then the answer was yes. And because of that, I was able to go in with the certainty that we can get this deal developed and over the line. And I think many people watching this video as well right now, I think if they really were brutally honest with themselves, do they have access to the resources? Absolutely. Can they get mentorship? Can they reach out to someone like yourself, Hyacinth? Can they reach out to other mentors or whoever it is? Can they get the funds? Of course, there's money out there. Money's in abundance out there. Just look for it, you know. So, and one thing I forgot to add, I've done this deal. I've actually gone into this deal with none of my own money. Zero. I haven't put a penny into it myself.
So you've gone into it with joint venture partners.
Joint venture, finance, other people's money, basically. OPM, as you're familiar with.
Yes, yes. So how did you source OPM, other people's money? How did you do that?
Well, one of the things I learned from Liam, in fact, was find the deal and the money will come.
Okay.
And I think people get it the other way around. People think, well, I need to make sure I find investors first before I get the deal. But think about it. You find an investor, like I'm an investor, people come to me and ask me for stuff. I'm like, well, where's the deal? I haven't got it yet. I'm not interested. I have nothing tangible to look at, right? So I say, flip it. Find the deal, bring the deal to an investor and start proposing, look, here are the figures, here's how it works, here's how it stacks up. Start doing some negotiations with them. Look at how you can basically give them a better cut, or how just start to negotiate about how it can work, because now you've got something tangible you can work with. Approaching investors to get investment, but they don't know what they're investing into, is going to be a pointless exercise. You know? So, and most high net worth individuals and most investors, they don't have a lot of time. They just want to know what's happening and can I get going with this, you know? So that's essentially how I did it. I found the deal and then I brought the deal to investors.
Fabulous. Jess, we're coming towards the close of the conversation. Just talk to us about how people can contact you, what the particular offerings you've got at the moment.
Yeah, so, well, great question. I mean, for me, essentially what I do, I'm not a property trainer. That's not what I do. I'm the founder of the Business and Marketing School here in the UK. We train entrepreneurs. We've had over 500 people come through our school, which is where we take business owners or people who want to get into business, and we help them start, grow, and scale profitable business. Whether that's a property business, whether that's an online business, whether that's a coaching business, or traditional bricks and mortar like tradesmen and hair salon owners and all this kind of stuff. And and how I do that is essentially over a number of things. We have free events where people get to know us. And then we also run our 3-day business and marketing school, which is a fantastic program, which in fact, I'm actually running one tomorrow for the next 3 days, which is pretty cool. Looking forward to that. So if anyone wants to get in contact with me around anything to do with their mind, their motivation and their money, you want to get those 3 things in check, then the best place to find me is actually on social media. So if you find me, if you just search for Jessen James on Facebook, you'll find me there. If you want to look me on Instagram, it's Jessen James _official, and on Twitter at Jessen James 7, which is the best way to get hold of me. Or they can visit jessenjames.com if they wanted to, but I'm more active on social media. So, if anyone wants to reach out to me, ask me any questions, if they're having any blockages in their head that's stopping them from getting involved in stuff, if they want to learn how to communicate more effectively with investors or anybody that they meet, if they want to build their confidence and certainty up, then reach out to me. I'm here to serve you.
Jessen, thank you so much. Great content as usual. So I'm just going to ask people to please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell to be notified of some more great videos. Thanks, Jessen.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.